Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Stay the course. That means staying local, staying small.
With new case numbers falling, when will BC see an easing of COVID-19 restrictions? Also,
I think it's super important that the entire community gets vaccinated so we can get everything open again.
You'll have a choice on your second dose as the vaccine rollout ramps up. And
it's just getting back to the normal.
Signs that Metro Vancouver's red-hot housing market
I'm getting ready for all the multiple offers and no offers.
is starting to cool off.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
good evening and thanks for joining us. With BC seeing another drop in COVID-19 numbers over the weekend, the big question is when will we see an easing of restrictions?
Tanya Fletcher is here live with the latest. Tanya, the rules are set to expire about a week from now. What's Dr. Bonnie Henry saying about whether they'll be extended?
Yeah, so the only thing we know for sure is that they won't be lifted before the deadline. So the circuit breaker is supposed to be in place until next Tuesday, May 25th. And health officials say they're not yet ready to make any changes to the current order, so they will remain in place through the upcoming long weekend. But Dr. Bonnie Henry did mention not wanting another spike in the coming weeks, so we asked her if we're to take that to mean that the circuit breaker will likely be extended past that. Here's her answer.
We're still trying to figure out how we're going to do every piece of that. So I don't have an answer for you, but I just say don't plan on things changing, lifting, and everything being different on the morning of the 25th.
So the indicators they'll be watching, the 7-day rolling average, hospitalizations, ICU levels, the non-emergency surgery backlog, all of these things will factor into that decision when to lift the ban on, say, indoor dining and non-essential travel within the province.
And Tanya, anyone who received AstraZeneca as a first dose will now be able to choose which vaccine they'll get as their second dose, I understand?
Yeah, so BC has 20,000 doses in remaining AstraZeneca supply ever since it was halted for first dose use last week. The stock that is left doesn't expire until the end of June, and there will be more AZ supply coming as well. So Dr. Henry says that means people who had it as their first shot will now be given the option of receiving the second dose of AstraZeneca or a different vaccine like Pfizer. She also says the current 4-month timeline between doses will likely be sped up for everyone thanks to the surge in supply for all vaccines.
Now that we have additional vaccine coming in place, we can move up the second dose particularly for those people who need it for their own personal protection. We can make sure that those who are older, those who are clinically vulnerable for different reasons are able to get their vaccine dose as soon as we have the supply for dose 2.
But she emphasized the minimum time period between doses will be at least 4 weeks. Mike, Anita?
Tanya Fletcher live tonight. Thank you, Tanya. The average number of daily COVID-19 infections is still dropping as BC reports more than 1,300 new cases since Friday. There have been 14 more deaths over the weekend, a reflection of case counts from a month ago. The vaccine effort continues as 55% of those eligible have now received a first dose, while around 3% have gotten their second one. Everyone 18 plus in BC can now book an appointment. And 4 new vaccination clinics have been set up in Surrey this week as BC pushes to get more shots into the arms and hotspot communities.
As Isabel Regem reports, new rules are in place to try to reduce the chaos we saw at earlier pop-up clinics.
Pop-up vaccination clinics are not new in Surrey, but the procedures used here today are.
We've doing some different strategies than we did the last time, and just trying to make sure that we've got some good line management and some registration for the folks out here in Surrey.
Different strategies being used at 4 extra clinics in Surrey this week, introduced after some previous clinics in the Fraser Health region became sources of confusion. Last month, dozens left this noon pop-up frustrated when they were told doses ran out only after waiting hours in line.
We were waiting, I was here at 9 o'clock, I was up there, and we waited all the way here for 4 hours. What's the point of that?
Today, a much less chaotic scene at Bear Creek Park this afternoon. One of the big changes is a check-in tent. That's where 1,000 people are going to get one of these wristbands with a time on it. Once they have received that wristband, they can move to another line and wait to get their vaccine. And reviews from those getting a shot today are overwhelmingly positive.
It was less than 10 minutes, I think.
I've been working as an essential worker and been trying to get vaccinated for a long time. And somebody told me, they just said, come and get vaccinated. So I thought, yeah, let's go.
I was on the fence for quite a long time until I discussed it with my family members and some people that I work with. I found out they were getting it, and they made me look at the issues again, and I decided to come get it because of the ease of the pop-up clinic.
A limit of 1,000 doses will be given out daily at each of the 4 clinics. An ID showing you live in Surrey and are 18 or older is required. Officials are confident the changes will ensure those who do wait in line leave satisfied and vaccinated. Isabel Regam, CBC News, Surrey.
Vancouver police are naming and sharing photos of 6 known gangsters who are accused of posing a big risk to public safety.
The move comes after 7 young men have been gunned down across the Lower Mainland as gang violence surges. Dan Burrett joins us with more. Dan, first, who are these men?
They're young, and police believe they may be the next targets of rival gangs and a danger to anyone, innocent or otherwise, who's nearby. Here they are, the so-called top 6. 35-year-old Gurinder Dio, 38-year-old Harjit Dio, 38-year-old Barinder Dhaliwal, 28-year-old Meninder Dhaliwal, 22-year-old Ekeni Anigbo, and 41-year-old Damian Ryan. None are wanted by police right now, but VPD Chief Adam Palmer says they are dangerous to their friends and complete strangers.
Risk to people every time they go to the gym, they go shopping, they go to the grocery store, a restaurant, or a bar when bars are open. These 6 individuals pose a risk to the people around them because it's highly likely that a rival gangster will try to target them with extreme violence.
Violence has been all too public in the last 3 weeks. 7 young men, as you mentioned, have been gunned down in public across Metro Vancouver, from outside restaurants to YVR, parking lots, shopping malls, sports centers, and a park. Almost all the victims are believed to have ties to gangs, except for one, a corrections officer shot dead in Delta. Chief Palmer says he expects violence to continue, even escalate. His force is now working overtly and covertly, he says, to quell the violence, and officers will be seizing gang members' cars, homes, and other valuables gained through crime. The force also says a new task force actually stopped a retaliatory shooting last week. 2 people were arrested in a stolen car loaded with gas containers. One of the 2 was a youth, the other had a loaded handgun. Amid all this, Metro Vancouver Crime Stoppers is reviving a gang violence awareness campaign thanks to new funding. It encourages people with information about gangs and illegal guns to report it anonymously. Organizers stress they don't want people's names, just their information. Anita, Mike.
All right, Dan, thanks very much. And Vancouver police are apologizing for wrongfully detaining a retired BC judge.
I want to publicly apologize to Mr. Romley for his detention. I know this would have been an unsettling and even traumatic experience for anybody to go through.
Justice Selwyn Romilly was handcuffed Friday morning in Stanley Park. 5 white officers mistook the 81-year-old for a much younger assault suspect. Romilly says he doesn't plan to file a complaint, but he urges vigilance in training officers and dealing with minorities. Romilly was the first black judge appointed to BC's Supreme Court.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with the forecast. Well, it's a big turn of events, Joe.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. Yeah, we've gone from record-breaking heat and sunshine this weekend to a cold front that is currently bringing quite the downpour to Metro Vancouver. The cold front will continue to slide through overnight, bringing the risk of thunderstorms and snow to the mountain passes. I'll take you through all those details coming up later in the show.
All right, Joe, we'll see you then. Thanks very much. Well, students at an East Vancouver school have started a campaign to change the name of their school from Lord Strathcona Elementary to Barbara Howard Elementary.
As Karen Larson reports, the students feel the former teacher at the school deserves the recognition.
They love their school, but students from Lord Strathcona Elementary don't love the man it was named for.
He wasn't inspirational. He was kind of just basic.
Lord Strathcona, you see, was a European colonialist who worked for the Hudson's Bay Company. In 1885, he was granted the honor of driving in the last spike of the Canadian Pacific Railway by virtue of being cousins with the railroad's president. He then got a lot of things named after him, like Lord Strathcona School. But 100+ years later, students feel it's time for a change, especially after learning the almost forgotten story of this woman, pioneering track star and former Lord Strathcona teacher, Barbara Howard.
It was a big shocker because, you know, I hadn't learned about her from anywhere before, and it was just very new and different.
Howard grew up in East Vancouver. As a teen in the late 1930s, she became the first Black woman to represent Canada internationally, setting an unofficial world record in the 100-yard dash.
I can't really think of myself at the age of 17 doing that much, as much as she did, and I just think that's really cool.
When the Second World War derailed Howard's running career, she went to UBC and became the first teacher of color hired by the Vancouver School Board. The students say renaming their school Barbara Howard Elementary would be a most deserving tribute for the woman who passed away in 2017 at age 96. Recognition of a trailblazer who was also one of their own.
As an athlete myself, you know, she encouraged me to work harder and just pursue my goals.
I think that because our community is so diverse, that she would be a much better representation.
The students will be making their plea to the school's Parent Advisory Council on May 19th and are hoping for a meeting with the Vancouver School Board. Karen Larson, CBC News, Vancouver.
Basic, I guess that's one way to describe.
Basic, just kind of basic, yes. Okay, now that the hockey playoffs have started on CBC, just a reminder of how and where you can watch this newscast. We're going to be on every weekday at 6 p.m. online, streaming on CBC Gem, YouTube, and Facebook.
And then we will be on air on television after the hockey game each evening. Those times will vary depending on when the game starts and ends. You can always watch our show on demand, streaming at our website, cbc.ca/BC.
Less panic from purchasers, fewer bidding wars. Just ahead, why the red-hot real estate market seems to be cooling off.
Thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Well, the pandemic has hit and nearly missed the provinces in vastly different ways. The Maritimes shut down, forming a regional bubble that largely worked at keeping the virus out.
But when cases rose, they closed more tightly. As Megan Stewart reports, those strict measures have trapped some BC families looking to head east.
A Victoria couple plan to call this trailer home for a few months as they cross the country to a new property in Nova Scotia.
We would always plan to move back to the Maritimes. We probably would have moved to Newfoundland except for the ferry.
It's been 30 years in the making, but for the moment, Julia and her husband Robert have to park their dreams and embrace more of the van life than they'd bargained for.
I think we've spent, oh my goodness, over $2,000 to stay in trailer park so far, you know, and we budgeted for that, but we didn't budget to stay in for another month, 2, 3, you know. We didn't budget for, you know, having to spend, you know, an indefinite period of time in our trailer.
So far, they haven't left Victoria. The message from Nova Scotia, don't come, not yet.
Strict border control is an imperative piece to make sure that we're not bringing in any more cases while we're trying to control the cases that we have now.
The province will consider exceptions for people closing on a home sale by May 20th. In Julia and Robert's case, their closing date is May 31st. Messaging has been inconsistent, but the province's top doctor clarified Friday, asking people to apply for those exemptions closer to the date they plan to arrive in their new province.
We're asking people to hold off, and we'll make some decisions and make it clear to people with those later closing dates as we get closer to the end of May.
A week earlier, another BC family was making haste across the prairies. After selling their home near Souk, the Dillons had been enjoying a leisurely trip from the Pacific coast to the Atlantic.
We had a call from her realtor. She says that Nova Scotia is shutting down.
With that new deadline, and fearing they'd be stranded at the border, they hit the Trans-Canada, aiming to drive nearly 4,000 kilometers in 3 days. A snag getting into the Atlantic bubble left them in Quebec, along with other travelers and truckers. They ran out of propane, but they got the word they'd been waiting for. Their application to enter the Maritimes on compassionate grounds was approved.
We just want a safe passage home to Nova Scotia.
Late Friday night, at last, they arrived at their oceanside property, a view of Newfoundland across the Gulf of St. Lawrence. Meantime, in Victoria, Julia and Robert are preparing for their own trip back east. They'll ask for compassion too, and will camp until they can get home. Megan Stewart, CBC News, Vancouver.
Back with more in just a couple of seconds at 8:16 on this soggy Monday evening. A look at BC Place in downtown Vancouver tonight.
Well, Metro Vancouver's housing market has been hot recently. Some sellers are getting the sense it's time to cash out.
They're worried a plateau might be coming. And as Greg Rasmussen tells us, Vancouver is just one city where market watchers are anticipating a price drop.
Everything's the original here. Original floors, original everything. So
this seller is sprucing up.
See, that looks better already.
Hoping to get around $1.8 million for her house after a big jump in prices.
I think now is a good time to sell. I think we were kind of at the peak right now. It may go up, may go down, but you know, every once in a while you just have to jump in.
Rates are low, prices are high.
Her agent says record high prices have shut out some buyers. He recently listed a condo expecting lots of offers.
20 showings in 3 days. I'm getting ready for all the multiple offers and got the documents ready and no offers. So for me, that's kind of an indication like, oh, something's happening here.
A slower market could be the new normal. While April is usually one of the busiest months for real estate, sales are down more than 12% from March. A slowdown is overdue, say many longtime market watchers.
And it's not really that much of a decrease. It's just getting back to the normal. So things are cooling off, which is what we really want to happen in the housing market.
Many buyers are backing away after too many rushed showings and houses going far over asking price.
The gamble was to place an offer, hope that you got the winning bid, and hold your breath that the house was in okay condition by the time you got the house for sure.
This is me. I'm the youngest.
For the Vancouver seller, a different problem.
It's very emotional to move from a home that we've been in for a very, very long time. Lots of ties, lots of memories, lots of people have come through the house, and it's just, it's sad. We have to move on. It's time.
Time to sell in this case, while others wonder about jumping in. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
Schooling Under Stress is a new CBC series that dives into how students and teachers have handled the pandemic.
They've revealed how they've adapted to handle remote learning and social distancing.
As Mel Puri of the CBC Impact Team reports, BC teachers are confident most students, with some help, will bounce back from the disrupted school year.
Education during a pandemic has been a lesson in schooling under stress.
You know, I have some students who you just don't hear from, you know, and nothing gets handed in.
At the start of the school year in September, teachers say a lot of students were behind.
They had missed quite a bit of their learning from the last term last year, so we were starting from a place that was further back than it would normally have been.
That said, teachers feel most students with some help will rebound from the pandemic year. The CBC questionnaire was sent to educators in the Surrey, Nanaimo, and Kelowna school districts. There were 1,597 responses. 1,100 came from teachers. Respondents were asked, how on track are you to finish teaching the required curriculum? Just over 50% said we're a bit behind. A quarter said we're far behind. The remainder responded we're right on schedule. Parents say closing the gaps will require more supports for teachers and students.
I think that what I saw and have seen this year is more of a gap in the socio-emotional side of it as opposed to the academic side.
Teachers want additional counselors to help with mental health of students and support staff to help with learning, especially for at-risk students. BC's education minister says the needs are being assessed.
There were pre-existing needs before COVID, and we know that those needs will be likely increased as we try to return to a more normal state in September. Those discussions and that process is underway right now in terms of the planning.
The questionnaire also asked, how many of your students do you feel are meeting the learning objectives? Over half said fewer of them. Most of the others said the same number as before. Only a handful said more.
I would also like to stress, most students are doing okay.
The common thread among the questionnaire, students are resilient and will recover. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
And you can read more on our series, Schooling Under Stress, at cbc.ca/BC.
Parking lot patios are popping up at Chinese restaurants across the Lower Mainland. Just ahead, how the indoor dining ban is sparking the popularity of outdoor dim sum.
Well, from the man in motion to the fastest man in motion, Donovan Bailey is also in BC, getting ready for his final tune-up race before his big match race with American Michael Johnson. The CBC's Ian Hannamansing caught up with him at a news conference, and Bailey was in fighting form.
Sprinter Donovan Bailey is not just quick with his feet, but quick with his wit as well.
Well, the question is, why aren't you a 200-meter runner rather than 100?
Because 200 is twice as far as I want to run.
Unlike a lot of athletes, Bailey is willing to speak his mind. On Ben Johnson's attempt to compete again after 2 positive steroid tests?
Right now, we finally have corporate sponsors coming into our federation supporting our team, making sure that all the guys, making sure that people have shoe sponsors and all of these things. And I mean, there's just no room for it. I mean, he cheated twice, and he should find a real job.
Bailey was asked whether it bothers him that many people in the United States think 200-meter sprinter Michael Johnson is the fastest man in the world.
I mean, it doesn't really matter to me what America says, because in the whole world of track and field, America is very, very tiny. I mean, we're recognized as being #1 in Canada and the other 5 billion people that's in the world, so we don't need to worry about them.
And when Bailey was asked about the height for next month's showdown race with Michael Johnson, he gave an answer the sponsors might not like.
The whole fast man the world thing, I think, was just roped in for the media. So I mean, I just made it very clear. It's a one-on-one match competition based on the patriotism of 2 countries and the dying or the death of our sport.
Once every 4 years, the sport of track and field captures the world's attention. Hundreds of millions of people tuned in for the 100-meter final in Atlanta. But outside of the Olympics, Canadian track athletes usually get little attention. That, though, seems to be changing. Just ask decathlete Michael Smith.
I used to get kids saying, "Are you Michael Jordan?" And but now I get kids saying, "Are you Donovan Bailey?" So I hate those comparisons. But that tells you something. It tells me something, that there's a lot of young kids out there that know what track and field is about now.
As charismatic as he might be, it is ultimately Bailey's blazing speed that best sells his sport. And on Sunday, track fans in nearby Burnaby will get a chance to see his last race before the showdown with Michael Johnson. Ian Hannamansing, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
May is Asian Heritage Month, and we're celebrating by sharing the stories of amazing Asian Canadians who are making meaningful contributions in the community. Visit cbc.ca/BC Community to learn more. And never miss an episode of your favorite CBC drama or comedy again with the free CBC Gem app. Plus, you can live stream CBC Vancouver News. Check it out at gem.cbc.ca.
Johanna Wagstaffe back with us now, and the forecast. Wonderful timing for the weekend, Joe. And you know what? I don't mind. Monday, whatever. Do whatever you want.
Whatever. Yeah.
It is very Monday.
Very Monday.
It's very Monday to start it off with showers, then heavy rain, snowfall with special weather statement for the Coquihalla. Yes, this is how we like it, just when we really need it. I want to take you to the satellite and radar, though. Give you the big picture, starting with the rain that really just moved in heavily across Metro Vancouver. Notice, the lightning detector just picking up a strike south of Chilliwack. This is a cold front digging into some muggy air, and behind it, very unsettled. Special weather statement both from Hope to Merritt and Hope to Princeton, Highway 3 and Coquihalla for tonight, 5 to 10 centimeters as temperatures drop behind this cold front. Notice the lightning activity right across the province. It is coming with some good rain, and that fire danger really creeping up over the weekend. Just have to take you to the west side of India very quickly. Category 4 cyclone, equivalent to a Category 4 hurricane, made landfall just a few hours ago. Mass evacuations ahead of that landfall, but that is the strongest landfalling cyclone for India in 2 decades. So I will keep you posted on that story in the next couple of days. Back to our forecast, temperatures are going to be notably chilly as we head into Tuesday's forecast. 14 for Kelowna, just a 7 for Prince George and Williams Lake. That's, again, thanks to this cold low. And that's our recipe for unsettled weather when we have cold air sitting aloft. Look at that, unsettled for the next few days. And then Mike and Anita, just the way we like it. Early indications, hot and sunny for the long weekend.
That sounds great. I got very distracted by the lightning. I
may have overdone it.
Emoji, but like,
yeah. My lightning icon was a bit much. I'll tone it down. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Well, pandemic restrictions for indoor dining means makeshift patios are popping up all over the place.
Well, the concept of outdoor dining isn't unusual. For Chinese restaurants in Canada, it is.
Video producer Kevin Lee stopped by some local restaurants to chat with outdoor dim sum diners.
Those who enjoy dim sum are trying something new.
This is the first time we have dim sum outside.
Yes, me too. I like it.
Much better than inside, to me.
We have no choice because of the COVID-19, right? So we can dine in the dining room, right? So that's why we have to put it in the patio.
While it's common to see outdoor dining for Western establishments, it's a relatively new concept for Chinese restaurants in Canada.
Sitting inside is better, of course. It's you can sit there all weather.
Another point is really good point, the noise.
Been for more than 40 days. I haven't got this dim sum already. I don't like to take home and eat it, so I just want to sit down and
You know, no dim sum for a long time. I think it's about a year or more than years. And then I do like to try. Yeah, I like dim sum.
The culinary tradition of dim sum dates back over millennia. It's popular in southern China and in Hong Kong. Dim sum is made up of a selection of freshly steamed tapas-styled dishes served alongside your favorite pot of tea during lunch.
If for the family, that is the chance to get the gathering together. And then if for the fan night today, I'm with my 2 girlfriends. We haven't seen each other for a year because of during the COVID-19. So we would like to spend time, probably an hour here to see each other.
It's too soon to say if dim sum on the patio will continue once the pandemic restrictions are lifted.
I like it so much, right? So all depends on the owner. Yeah, and the city as well, right?
One thing is for certain, diners are just happy to enjoy dim sum, even if it's on the sidewalk. Kevin Lee, CBC News, Vancouver.
I could definitely do some outdoor dim sum.
Yes, hagao, siu mai, cha siu bao, all of it. Yum, yum.
Okay, before we go, kudos to Angela Starrett, Canadian Screen Awards Best Local Reporter for her work right here on this show. Congrats, Angela.
And absolutely, congratulations. All right, Dan Burrett is here, at 11 o'clock, right after the National. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.